James Kennedy was driving home from his sister's wedding in Portland, taking the long route back to Seattle rather than staying another night. The reception had run late, and by the time he said his goodbyes, it was already past midnight. "Just 4 hours on the road," he had told his concerned sister. "I'll be fine, I've done longer drives." Now, as the digital clock on his dashboard flipped to 2:17 a.m., James was beginning to regret his decision. Route 16 cut through dense forests that seemed to swallow his headlights. The rain had started about 20 minutes ago, not heavy but persistent enough that he needed his wipers on the intermittent setting. He reached forward to adjust the radio, trying to find something beyond static to keep him company. Most stations had gone to automatic programming at this hour, and the few that came through clearly were playing the kind of late-night talk shows that made James more uneasy than entertained. Conspiracy theories and callers describing paranormal experiences that seemed perfectly crafted for empty roads and exhausted minds. James settled on a station playing classic rock and relaxed slightly in his seat. That's when his headlights caught a figure at the roadside about 50 yards ahead. As he drew closer, James could make out a person, tall, wearing what looked like a dark jacket, one arm extended in the universal gesture of hitchhiking. "You've got to be kidding me," James muttered, instinctively easing off the accelerator. Who would be out here at this hour? His mind quickly sorted through the possibilities. Stranded motorist, someone in genuine need, or something more dangerous. The rational part of his brain reminded him of every warning he'd ever heard about picking up strangers, especially on deserted roads in the middle of the night. As James drew closer, he could see it was a woman, maybe in her 30s. Her face was partially obscured by wet hair plastered against her cheeks, but he could make out an expression of desperate relief as his car slowed. Something about her seemed oddly familiar, though James was certain they'd never met. He pulled over about 10 feet ahead of her, heart pounding as he debated what to do. "Just drive away," a voice in his head urged, but she looked so vulnerable in his rearview mirror, soaked through, shoulders hunched against the rain. Before he could reconsider, he reached across and unlocked the passenger door. She moved quickly to the car, opening the door and sliding into the seat in one fluid motion that sent a chill down James's spine. Water dripped from her clothes onto his upholstery. "Thank you," she said, her voice surprisingly clear and calm for someone who had been standing in the rain. Not many people stop these days. "Where are you headed?" James asked, putting the car back in drive but not yet pulling onto the road. "Just up to the Harrison Creek exit," she said. "About 15 miles. My car broke down and my phone's dead." James nodded, trying to appear casual while his mind raced with questions. The Harrison Creek exit was remote, just a small cluster of buildings that barely qualified as a town. She must have been waiting a long time for someone to come by. "I'm James," he offered, pulling back onto the empty road. "Sarah," she replied without looking at him. In the green glow of the dashboard lights, James noticed a wedding ring on her finger. She followed his gaze and smiled faintly. "My husband will be worried sick. I was supposed to be home hours ago." The next 10 minutes passed in awkward silence. James tried to focus on driving, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Sarah sat perfectly still, not shivering despite her wet clothes, staring straight ahead at the road. "So what happened to your car?" James asked, unable to bear the silence any longer. Sarah didn't answer immediately. Then, "It was the anniversary of the accident, 3 years today." James frowned, glancing over at her. "I'm sorry, what accident?" "The one that killed me," Sarah said simply, still looking straight ahead. "Right up there, at Harrison Creek Road." A cold weight settled in James's stomach. "That's not funny," he whispered. "It wasn't meant to be." Sarah replied, turning to look at him for the first time. In the brief moment before James jerked his eyes back to the road, he saw that her face was now bone dry, her hair perfectly arranged, and her eyes reflected the dashboard lights like a cat's would, glowing green in the darkness. James's hands tightened on the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. His mind frantically tried to rationalize what was happening. She was messing with him. This was some kind of sick prank, or his exhausted brain was playing tricks. "I think I should let you out here," he managed, voice tight. "You can't," Sarah said calmly. "We're already at the spot." James looked up to see the Harrison Creek exit sign illuminated in his headlights. It was riddled with bullet holes, the metal twisted and faded. The sign looked decades old. "Slow down, James," Sarah whispered. "This is where it happened." Instead, James pressed harder on the accelerator, the car lurching forward as the speedometer climbed, 50, 60, 70 miles per hour. "You can't outrun it," Sarah's voice came, now from the back seat. "No one can. I've been trying for 3 years." James's eyes darted to the rearview mirror but saw only darkness behind him. When he looked back to the passenger seat, it was empty. Only a single drop of water on the upholstery suggested anyone had been there at all. He didn't remember driving the next 20 miles. When his racing heart finally slowed enough for him to think clearly, he pulled into a 24-hour gas station and parked under the harsh fluorescent lights. With shaking hands, he took out his phone and searched Sarah Harrison Creek accident. The first result was a local news article dated exactly 3 years ago. The headline read, "Local woman dies in hit and run on Route 16. Below was a photo of a smiling woman he recognized immediately, the woman who had been in his car just minutes ago. According to the article, Sarah Miller's body had been found by a passing motorist near the Harrison Creek exit. The driver who hit her had never been identified. As James stared at the screen, a notification appeared. A text message from an unknown number. "Thanks for the ride. Now it's your turn to wait by the road." James never drove Route 16 again. But sometimes on rainy nights he wakes to the sound of wipers squeaking against glass, though his car is parked and empty in the driveway.